This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Sailing aboard Holland America's MS Volendam this week, somewhere in the South China Sea as I record this, Vietnam tomorrow. We're going to try to connect with staff writer Richard Sims. If any connection issues do happen, I apologize in advance. Also, a review of Norwegian Joy on this week's show. But first, staff writer Richard Sims. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug. We have so much news to do this week, so I'm going to try not to be my usual babbly self.
And I know you just got back from a cruise. You sound exhausted, by the way. A prank that got out of control on a Royal Caribbean ship last week.
Yeah, this has gotten a lot of people talking because it really plays into the whole idea of kids gone wild on a cruise ship. This was on Oasis of the Seas, and passengers on board heard the Oscar, Oscar, Oscar announcement, which indicates to them that, those who are in the know, that there is a man overboard. Soon after the captain announced that there was a man overboard, the ship altered its course. The U.S. Coast Guard was notified. Everybody came out. Everybody searched for about 90 minutes. And then came the announcement that this was actually all a prank. There have been a couple of nobody has completely sourced it, but there's been a couple of stories out there saying that this was basically a little girl, probably a teenager maybe or younger, who was traveling with friends and family and got her friends to tell her grandmother that she had gone overboard. The big question here is, something like this not only causes chaos on a ship, but what a lot of people don't think about is how much money, taxpayer money, we should point out, is spent because, it ain't cheap to fly the U.S. Coast Guard out there and conduct a search. So, rightly so, I think people kind of want to hear that this family or this person responsible and those who they were with are punished somehow. But so far, we haven't really heard anything.
If you want to cruise with your pet, this one might be for you.
Doug, every so often my parents want to come somewhere, like they want to come here to visit, and they figure out what to do with their dogs. Now, imagine having that same problem, but you're not just wanting to go on a trip. You want to move onto a cruise ship. So you can't just, drop the dogs off with the neighbor or have a relative take care of them for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. You're moving. Well, it turns out that a new residential cruise line known as Fabled Voyages is setting things up in such a way that folks who want to live on a cruise ship but not leave their cats and dogs behind will be able to do so. There are, of course, limitations, mostly regarding things like size, health, behavior requirements. Standard staterooms will be allowed to have up to 2 pets maximum, and each must be approved by management on a case-by-case basis. One of the listed requirements is that pets must be, and I'm quoting here, comfortable with long-term ship living. And honestly, I don't know how you figure that out. I mean, people have to figure out that they're comfortable with long-term ship living, let alone pets. It is also worth mentioning that, and we've seen, stop me if you've heard this before, but the company does not actually have a ship yet. So, we'll see how this plays out.
And it looks like Disney Cruise Line is expanding in Asia.
If you're one of those Disney fans who want to visit every park and sail on every ship, this is an opportunity to do each of those down the line in one trip. The Oriental Land Company, which owns and operates the Tokyo Disney Resort, they have formed a subsidiary called the Oriental Cruise Company. And if you're connecting the dots, you know kind of where this is going. Because as the title implies, the new company is going to be operating a Japan-based version of Disney Cruise Line. Now, you have plenty of time to plan because they are only in the early stages of designing the first ship in what presumably will eventually evolve into, a fleet. They'll be using the Disney Wish and other ships in that class as sort of their jumping off point from a design standpoint. They're hoping to launch in 2028. There's some reports that the newly named Disney Believe will be kicking off this venture in Japan, but that is not true. This will be an entirely new, currently under development ship that will eventually become the flagship vessel.
And there's more questions and answers on that NCL project that's happening in the Port of Philadelphia.
Yeah, just a few weeks away, and we've heard from several people in the area, some of whom who are slated to go on one of those early cruises, some of whom are just curious passersby. But it sounds as if these first sailings are going to be a bit of a disaster. Let me rephrase that. The sailings themselves won't be a disaster. They'll probably be awesome because the Norwegian Jewel, which is the sister ship of the Gem, one of my all-time favorites, is the ship that will be sailing out of Philadelphia. So I'm sure the sailings themselves will be awesome. But here's the thing. The new terminal from which the ship is supposed to start sailing in like 4 weeks is nowhere near finished. Right now, it's sort of hard to tell how things will play out. Norwegian and Philiport have both said that the extreme weather we had over the past few months led to these delays, and that certainly makes sense. I've lived through that weather. But one of our regular listeners kind of wandered by there the other day and left a message on the tip line saying they are sure there is absolutely positively no way this terminal is going to be ready. And that leaves passengers sort of wondering how things are going to work out. We're hearing that there's going to be a temporary terminal set up for things like check-in, but ticketing, baggage drop, how will all of that be handled? We're told that, like I said, these details are being worked out right now, and that Norwegian will hopefully pretty soon reach out to passengers and let them know exactly how this is going to go. But it sure sounds like it's going to be an embarkation day to remember.
Yeah, and it looks like along those same lines, a port project in Florida is now dead in the water.
Yeah, pun intended. This seemed like a long shot from the very beginning, but now that Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a bill, which, among other things, bans dredging in protected waters, there's pretty much zero chance this project will move forward. We've been telling you about it for a while. Tampa's port is unable to welcome some of the newer megaships because they're just too big to sail beneath the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, which, you got to think when they built these bridges that nobody ever thought, hey, someday there's going to be cruise ships so big they won't be able to sail under here and get to our port. There's no official word on the plug being pulled, but it's hard to imagine something like this could move forward without some pretty major dredging.
I don't have this written down, but it happened last week while you were gone. NCL made a change on an upcoming decision regarding its private island in the drink package.
Yeah, this is actually interesting in that it's yet again another case of Norwegian sort of making a proclamation and then changing their mind. We saw them do this to a certain degree with the dress code a few weeks ago. Now, you might recall that a while back, Norwegian announced that starting in, I believe it was February, at the beginning of February, it was going to be that when you went to the private island, your drink package no longer counted there. Now, it always has in the past, but they were saying moving forward, it wasn't going to be accepted there. There was even talk that they were going to come up with a separate drink package that you could buy that would only be good on the island. So basically, they would, most people traveling with Norwegian get the drink package for free as part of the free at sea promotion. So you would get your drink package on the ship, which, by the way, you have to pay, the 20% gratuity on. And then you would have to buy a separate drink package on the private island, which, by the way, you'd have to pay a 20% gratuity on. Well, now they have, I'm pretty sure in response to universally negative feedback, said, oh, you know what? Maybe we're not going to do this. At first, they put the plan on hold for a month. Now they're saying that plan is kaput, that they will now honor your drink package on Great Stirrup Cay.
Funny how that works. Carnival Cruise Line canceling 11 sailings.
Yeah, Long Beach, California. This was sailings of the Carnival Firenze, which, it's going to displace a whole lot of people because 11 sailings, you figure a ship that size, do the math. I'm not going to because I'm not good at it and I'm very tired, as you mentioned, but it's a lot of people. And we're seeing a lot of this lately. We saw Norwegian canceling some. We saw Royal Caribbean canceling a bunch. They're labeling it, in each case, they're labeling it, fleet redeployment. And if you sit in on the weekly earning or the quarterly earnings calls, you hear them talk a lot about this, that they take a look, they place their ships where they think they want them to be, but assuming that it's like a sailing 2 years down the line, they may look and say, you know what? No, we need to redeploy more of our fleet to Alaska or to the Eastern Caribbean or Western Caribbean. And so because it's ships and not hotels, they're very easily able to just say, okay, we're going there instead. And that's what we're seeing a lot of right now is changes in long-term deployments.
And closing on an arrest aboard a celebrity cruise ship.
Yeah, a man was arrested. We're not going to get into a lot of details here. He allegedly was touching and exposing himself to two minors and a 19-year-old in a sauna on a celebrity cruise ship. I don't believe we know exactly which celebrity ship it was. Not that that matters. But yes, he has been arrested. And, what can you say? I guess if we wanted to tie this back into our story at the beginning, it would be maybe to make sure you're keeping an eye on your kids. In the first story, of course, it was kids gone wild and doing things they shouldn't be doing. In this story, it was just kids who, if an adult had been with them, this situation might not have happened, which is not to blame the kids in any way, shape, or form. It is not their fault, but it's just, sometimes we get on ships and we don't think about the fact that we need to keep our kids safe.
All right, staff writer Richard Sims, get some sleep, my friend. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com. Heather just returned from a 5-night cruise on Norwegian Cruise Line's Norwegian Joy. It was out of Port Canaveral to the Western Caribbean over to Cozumel and back. She joins us to talk all about it. Heather, welcome back.
Hi.
Last time you were on, you gave a little review of your Alaska sailing on, what was it, Celebrity. Now it's NCL to the Caribbean. So let's jump right in here. What made you want to take this NCL cruise? Because this is your very first time sailing NCL, correct?
Yes, I've never sailed NCL, and this was my first solo cruise as well. So I had done Celebrity Solstice and I'd done Carnival a few years before, and I just felt neither of those was exactly my speed. Like Carnival was a little too party, Celebrity was a little too senior, and I wanted to try Norwegian or Royal. And so I went with Norwegian, and they're known for having great deals for solo, so I went for it.
Did you have any hesitation going on a cruise by yourself?
Oh yeah, tons. I mean, I'm single and I live alone, so I'm kind of used to it. But like going to Mexico by myself, yeah, I was a little bit nervous. And even like I'm a very social butterfly kind of person. Like I can make friends with a plant, but I was still like, what if nobody likes me and I don't have any friends? And I was like, yeah, right, Heather, that's not going to happen. So I was a little nervous, but all my friends are like, you'll be fine.
So you're in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. You make your way down to Central Florida. Any pre-cruise time before boarding Norwegian Joy?
Yes, I was like, I need a couple days on the beach because I had just been in Iowa for Thanksgiving where we got 18 inches of snow.
Wow.
So I stayed in Cocoa Beach at a little Airbnb for like 3 days beforehand. I could see one of the SpaceX launches.
Awesome.
During my time was like on Thursday, and the cruise was leaving on Friday. So I did get to see that SpaceX launch. So it was a 9-minute Uber to Port Canaveral.
So you make your way to Port Canaveral to board Norwegian Joy. How was the boarding process, and how long did it take you from the curb to the ship? And on top of that, I want to ask too, did you do all your paperwork pre-cruise where you didn't have to, show much at the pier?
Yeah, I had everything done ahead of time, and I didn't even need to print any paper off except for my luggage tag. So all I had to do was download the document on my phone, and I could just get in with that. And and my passport. And it took 20 minutes from curb to ship. I found a guy to give my luggage to, and then it was mainly just herding cats from room to room until you got onto the ship. But it was quick. It moved the whole time. There was no waiting.
Now, these Breakaway Plus class ships, when you board them, you're not boarding right in the main atrium. You're either boarding forward or aft of it. You walk down a hallway, then you get to the atrium. But with all that said, what were your first impressions when you walked on board Norwegian Joy?
It was really nice. Like, it was pretty. The atrium was very open, and it was tastefully decorated. It was nice. I liked it. I was excited to find some food after the muster station and get my day going.
The muster station, do they still, I know when I did NCL a couple of years ago, they were like, and most cruise lines do this, but they were very adamant about it. As soon as you get on board, don't go anywhere until you do your muster drill.
Yes, they directed me and said, "What's your tag?" and sent me to muster station A, which was in the theater. And literally all I did was walk up and they scanned my card and I left. So they didn't tell me anything. I was like, okay, guess I'm good.
If we sink, you're no good. So yeah,
I don't know what to do if we sink.
Luckily, that didn't happen there. So you make your way to your solo stateroom. How was it, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, it was great. I actually did some Instagrams. I did a room tour on Instagram, and I thought it was great. Like, I did get a balcony room, so it was pretty much just like a regular balcony room. I just was only there by myself. The bed was great. It was big. The balcony was nice. There was plenty of space. As far as plugs, I brought a little box to plug things in, but there was a USB regular right by the bed on the light. So yeah, it was a great stateroom, plenty of room, comfortable bed. The TV is a little small, but other than that, I loved it. The bathroom was great. They do not have conditioner for your hair, which luckily I had seen on something else beforehand. So I knew to bring my own conditioner because I have curly hair. And if I don't have conditioner, I'm not leaving my room. So it's not good. I have big curly hair. But other than no conditioner and the TV was a little small, the room was great.
Did you price how much of a discount you received sailing solo because you were basically in a double occupancy stateroom? Did you just look for grins, how much it would be if you paid, for a regular one like most cruise lines make you do?
No, but I didn't, not on NCL, but I looked at I looked at Royal, and it was definitely more expensive to go on Royal than it would have been for this solo rate on Norwegian. So that was a big part of the reason I picked Norwegian. Because I really didn't care where I was going. I just wanted to go somewhere sunny and try a different ship. And I wanted to go by myself because I'd been on cruises with other people. And I was like, I want to be by myself and do what I want to do. I had been on a cruise with someone that was a little difficult. And I was like, okay, this is enough. I just want to go and do what I want to sleep when I want to sleep. I want to watch what I want to watch. I want to go when I want to go. And I want to not go when I don't want to, And I was just like, this is the life, man. This is awesome. And I had plenty of peopling time, I'm like,
very
and
cool.
the solo group, I met up with the solo cruise group the first night. And I thought it would kind of be like you meet up the first night and that's all. But no, we met every night. And Earl from the entertainment staff was amazing. He was so great. And he got us all, we did little games every night and they weren't dumb. They were fun. And all the people were so nice. And he organized dinner, but then other people were like, oh, I'm going to this specialty. Do you want to go with me? Or, oh, I'm going to do this. And I went on an excursion and had an extra ticket but didn't have anybody to go with. And I found someone in the solo group. I was like, hey, I have a free ticket for an excursion. Does anybody want to go? And this one girl, her name was also Heather. She was like, I'll go. It's free. Sure.
I was going to ask you, so this class of ship, I believe, because it was made for the Chinese market and then converted in like 2019, then came to the North America. So it didn't have solo cabins on it, I don't believe, but there's definitely no solo studio lounge, correct?
No, there is no lounge.
Okay. You were talking about meeting with the entertainment guy. We just like meet at a lounge or a place and kind of just hang out?
We met at the lounge where the Beatles thing is always at.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it. It met in there every night at 5:00.
All right. Let's talk about the food on aboard Norwegian Joy here. We'll start at the buffet, get that knocked out, which is the Garden Cafe. How was it up there? And did it ever feel too crowded during your sailing?
Oh, it was busy. Somebody said that it wasn't sold out, but it felt pretty close to sold out. And yes, it was busy, and yes, it was crowded, and yeah, it was hard to find a table, but I always managed to find a table, and food was always plentiful. I would say it was mid as far as the food. Like, I don't know what it is, but the Indian food always seems to be the best. And it's hard to have a burger after you've had Guy's Burger on Carnival. It's hard to even look at any other burger because they're just not good. But the food was fine. Like, I always found something to eat at the Garden Cafe when like that was the option I needed to use. It was fine. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my choice, but I did go to it a few times.
And then for the main dining room experience, I know you did a lot of specialty restaurants. So did you do any dining in the large dining rooms?
Yes, we did taste and savor mainly for lunch, but we did go once for dinner. I never did do the Manhattan room, which I think is just a little more formal, but we just went back to taste and savor all the time, which, just a little tip, if you're at taste and they tell you there's a wait, walk 10 steps over to savor or vice versa. Because one time, one of them had a wait of 20 minutes and we walked to the other one and there was no wait. And they have the same menus and they're 10 steps apart.
That's good to know.
So always check the other one if there's no line because there was no wait. But we went there multiple times, mainly for lunches. And I thought it was much better than the buffet. The portions are small, but the food was great. That tiramisu was some of the best tiramisu I've ever had. And, if you didn't like something or if it was a little small and you wanted an extra, or if you wanted 2 appetizers, they were more than willing to bring anything you wanted.
That's good to hear. So
and also the breakfast. I went to Taste and Savor. That was far better than the buffet for breakfast as well. If you have the time, it was a little slower. But when I was on Celebrity, the breakfast was like, you could tell it was exactly the same food and exactly like not any different from the buffet to the main dining. But this was different. It had meals and it had things that were put together, and the food was just much better than the buffet. So I recommend going there for breakfast if you have that little extra time.
And there are a lot of specialty restaurants on this ship. But before we hit those, we'll hit up the local, which is the one that is complimentary 24 hours a day. Did you dine there at all? Yes.
A bunch of my friends went and said breakfast there is really good. I went late night one night on actually the last night. I was sort of scouring the ship just to make sure there wasn't anybody I hadn't said goodbye to and looking for people. And I saw carrot cake on the menu and I was like, carrot cake. So I had wings and carrot cake.
Nice.
It was good.
What did you think of their wings?
They were pretty good. Like, I would rather, the sauce was a lot. I'd rather have them dry, but all in all, they were good. Okay. I liked them.
Then there's also a diner by the pool. I think it's called American Diner?
Yes, American Diner. And the day I went, it was raining and wind so hard that the chairs were moving. And it was cold. So it wasn't really the best day to go there because we were sitting in the front part, which is pretty much outside. And the food was, I have to say, was pretty bad. Everybody recommended chicken pot pie. It was like a high school cafeteria. So I do not recommend the diner's food, but I paid extra for the chocolate shake and it was delicious. It was a little small, but it was perfectly sized for me and it was really, really good. So the shake is worth it.
So I think of the local as a diner too. So how do the menus differ between American diner and the local?
They're very different. So I think that the local or the diner is more like hot dogs and hamburgers. And then they have a few like meals like that chicken pot pie, which I normally wouldn't have gotten. But I did see a burger come through and it looked like a pre-made patty kind of thing. It wasn't Guy's Burger by any means. And then the local was more like pub, like lots of good like fried appetizers and a bigger menu. And it was more like bar food.
Okay. Fair enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
The diner was more like Steak and Shake, and the local was more like bar food.
So let's talk about the specialty restaurants you went to. I know you went to Cagney's, Le Bistro, Food Republic, and I know a couple of other ones there, Teppanyaki too, I think you said. Yeah. So let's start at the top there. How was Cagney's?
It was really good. I mean, it was a steakhouse, and that's kind of what I've heard. Like, it's pretty much a steakhouse. I went because I had heard on your podcast how great the bacon was. And so I'm a bacon girl. I had to get it. And it was amazing. I told everybody else on the ship, if you go, get the bacon. The steak was fine. It was funny because I had steak in the buffet. I had steak at main dining. I had steak at Cagney's and then at Le Bistro. And the difference between them all was astounding, the difference as you went up the levels. But it was good at Cagney's. I didn't like the sides. I thought they were kind of bad, but the steak and the bacon were good and the creme brulee was good. Service was great at every place as well.
And then the French restaurant, Le Bistro, what did you think?
Best meal of the vacation. I got steak. It was amazing. It was heads and tails above every other steak I had on any cruise. This was the best steak I've ever had on a cruise. I also got the escargot because I'd never had it before. And as a foodie, I was like, let's try it. And I was shockingly surprised. It's not pretty, but it was delicious. It kind of tasted like mushrooms. So I was shocked at how much I liked that. And then everybody told me to get the chocolate log for dessert. And I looked at the desserts and I didn't know. And I just told the server, I was like, I want the chocolate log. And they're like, we got you. And I loved it so much. I was like about to lick the plate. And she's like, I can get you another one. And I was like, no, I'm going out. But Le Bistro was heads and tails above everything else. My favorite restaurant. It was amazing.
What about Food Republic?
Food Republic is a lot of food. You get 4 items per person, and that it seems like it has a small selection, but once you delve in, there's like 6 or 7 different kind of sections of like appetizers and then handheld and then bowls, and there's a lot to choose from. And 4 plates was a ton of food. Like even just the sushi, like one whole sushi roll for one person is a lot. So it was a lot. I wouldn't say it was like anything was so amazing that I wanted to have it again, but it was really good. And you got a ton of food. So even the dessert, I didn't really care for my dessert. I got a matcha with that, which I've never had before. I didn't really like it, but I didn't leave like, I didn't like that. You know, I left like, oh, I'm so full. I don't care that I didn't really want to eat it.
Would you describe Food Republic as maybe going there with a few friends and a restaurant for sharing, I'll say?
Yes. I was with somebody who had some food allergies. So she had a nut allergy. So unfortunately, we couldn't really share because everything I got had her allergy. But yes, it'd be a great place to go to like, and if everybody got 4 things, like you would be so stuffed when you walked out of there. But yeah, it's great for sharing. It's little small plates of everything.
What did you think of the teppanyaki experience?
I had such a great time. Everybody I've heard is like, it's teppanyaki. It's just like the States. But it's not. Like, they can't have flames, which I didn't even realize until the show was over. He was like, yeah, we can't have fire, so it's a little different. And I was like, I didn't even notice that you didn't have fire. Like, Alejandro was our dude, and the food was the same. Yes, the food is typical, but his show was fantastic. He was such a great singer, and the whole place was singing along to like every table, and he was a performer. I was like, are you sure you're not in like the show band or something like that and the entertainment? And he's like, no. And I was like, he was great. Like, we had a blast, and there was just 3 of us. The other people didn't show up. So it was just the 3 of us from the solo group. And we had a fantastic time. We loved Alejandro.
What did you get there?
I think I just had steak. So I got shrimp and
Okay.
scallops.
Did I miss any?
I did also go to Sugarland, which is the mojito bar. And I got one, I think it was called the El Padrino. And I'm not much of a drinker. Like my friends were laughing at me at how many drinks I had on this ship. But the El Padrino, man, that taste, I didn't even taste the alcohol. But yet after I had 2 of them, I was a little lit. It was awesome.
Did you get the drink package as a perk or did you opt for something else?
I did have the drink package as a perk. So a couple times, like when I went there and when I went up to Vibe and stuff like that, was able to get a drink here and there. But that I mainly just got it for soda.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's talk about the entertainment on this 5-night sailing. What did you think of it?
Well, it's cruise entertainment.
Yeah.
Like I went to, I'll say now the games that they play, like Earl was he was our solo group guy and he had a game and he kind of figured out quickly that I'm not shy. And so they were doing like a music game where they'd play like 5 seconds of a song and then everybody had to guess the song. And he was like, "Don't you move. I need you." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know what you're going to need me for," but he needed a spirit captain. And in the first 30 seconds, I was named the spirit captain of the right side of the atrium. And suddenly, magically, I was dancing and had everybody chanting my name. So like that type of entertainment, the games, those were fun. We did bingo one day. I'd never done bingo on a cruise. It was $50, but it was fun. They make it entertaining. But we did go, the only show I went to was the 90s show because that was the one that people recommended the most. I did hear, there was another show that wasn't like one of the Broadway shows that people liked. I can't remember the name of it. People liked that. I didn't go to that, but I did go to the 90s one and it was okay. I mean, it's kind of like watching American Idol on 90s night. So they try to have like a little storyline at first and then they do all these 90s throwback songs, which are fun and everybody got into it and everybody was singing because we all knew them. But, as far as like being quality, entertainment that I'd recommend, nah, probably not. I probably would have had just as much fun going to the game shows or something like that.
How about other music or comedy around the ship?
Oh, we did see the comedians. They were okay. I used to do stand-up comedy, and so I kind of have a threshold for it. And I chuckled a couple times, but they were family friendly, and we went to the not family friendly show, and that was a little bit better. But they were good. It was a good time. It was a nice way to spend an hour and a half. The music, as I walked around the ship, I did hear like bands here and there, but I didn't really stay and like listen to anything. We did do a lot of DJ activities like 90s night, 80s night, stuff like that. We went down to the club one night. But also I'm a big football fan and my Minnesota Vikings were playing on Sunday night. And so they had the game on in the Spice H2O deck. And so I went up there and I was able to watch the game up there with other Viking fans. And that was a really good time. So we had a blast watching that football game. So I kind of did some of that stuff too. A lot of just around the ship type of stuff.
How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
Oh, they were crowded, which is why I was glad I got the Vibe Pass.
Nice.
Which I will say, so the Vibe Pass, I mean, it was, had a chunk of change. And I would say it wasn't, at first I was like, this was not worth it because on rainy days, you're not wanting to go sit up there in the Vibe area. But on those days or the times when it was sunny, that Vibe Pass was 1,000% worth it because you could not find a chair in a good spot on the pool deck. But yet you walk up to Vibe and it's maybe 25% of people. There was chairs everywhere. The staff up there, the second you walk up there and you put your card in there, they are offering you water and they bring you a carafe with fruit. They're bringing you little snacks. They're bringing shots around. I didn't pay for a shot up there. But the staff was just really attentive up there in the Vibe. And just the fact that you had a great chair with the extra cushion, it was super nice. And if it's sunny, it's definitely worth it because you weren't fighting for it. And I could have easily gotten in the hot tubs too. Like you can't get in a hot tub in the regular area of the ship. But up there in Vibe, it was maybe 5 adults and it was big enough for probably 10. So it was easy to, use that area. And we were up there one day and it was about to rain. And we asked the attendant, we're like, how long until the rain hits us? And he looked at the front of the ship. He goes, now. And we were like, okay, we'll go now. Bye. But the bartenders up there were so fun and friendly. They're like, do you want to try this? Do you want to try this? Here, have this shot. And we're like, okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Probably a good call with the Vibe. Probably a good call with that Vibe Pass, because this ship, as we mentioned earlier, was designed for the Asian market. And I believe it was sailing out of Shanghai. Even the pools down there aren't huge because typically the Asian population, they don't like the pools. They like the shade. So they really had more of a greenery type setup out there by the pool when it was over in Asia. So yeah, I could see it getting a little tight down there. And with the smaller pools too, that just adds to a better reason why you had the Vibe Club there. So good call on that. As far as the casino, did you make your way in there at all?
I did not play any games, but I walked through it a few times. And I will say, I couldn't smell. I think one time I went by, there's a separate room with separate closing doors for smoking in there. Mm-hmm. And so one of the times when I walked by, it did open and I could smell it. And the other smoking area is on the pool deck on one side. And it didn't have doors, but it had walls and kind of an opening. And that stunk pretty bad when you walked by it. So I kind of made sure to always walk on the other side of the ship. But other than that, they were pretty contained for that. But the casino looked nice and it was busy. I was too busy doing everything else.
I know you said it was cold out there, so I take it no go-kart or water slide for you?
No, I wasn't really in the mood for that. I went to the spa and watched football.
Oh, yeah. Talk to us about the spa. What'd you think? How was it?
Yeah, I decided, I was like, this is a treat for me. I'm going to get a blowout on my hair on the second day. So I had it before I went into the port. And I had the sweetest guy. I did not expect a guy to be the one doing my hair, but he was so sweet. And we ended up bonding and chatting, and he was great. He did a fantastic job. I looked sassy when I was done. And then the Good Feet people came and talked to me, and I actually was planning on buying some anyway. So they were a little pushy, but all in all, I would have had an easy time saying no, but I actually was interested, so I didn't mind. But the spa, he did a great job on my hair. I looked fabulous.
The Good Feet, I believe it's actually cheaper at sea too, the Good Feet store, because got the sales push on me back in 2022 on Carnival Celebration. And I'm like, I don't need this, but I did the... they have you walk on the mat with the ink on your feet or whatever it is. They're like, you need to just try these. I promise they'll make a difference. And I've had them in my boots for 3 years now, almost 4 years. I love them. They make a difference. So yeah, you're gonna enjoy your Good Feet store feet there.
Yeah, I know. Well, I have arthritis in my feet, so it's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I have a knee, a meniscus issue in my knee. So I have issues, and I was literally planning on doing it. Now I did ask, could I come back later? I basically wanted to go research online and see if it was a better deal. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh no, this price you can only get right now. Yeah, and I was like, come on, bro. Yeah. But I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do it. And he's like, it's cheaper than in the store on land. And I was like, okay. And then I Googled when I got back to my room, and I was like, oh, it's a lot cheaper. So if you're at all thinking about going, go on the ship.
Yeah, he didn't lie about that, but he did lie about it not being available later, because if they want to sell it to you bad enough, they'll give you the price anytime during the cruise,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Because they're working on sales. So let's see here. We talked about the spa. We talked about your outdoors and vibe. How about your ports of call? I understand you were supposed to have 2 ports of call, but you only wound up with 1.
Right. We were supposed to go to Cozumel one day and Great Stirrup Cay the next, but it was cold and super windy, and they did not have the dock finished at Great Stirrup Cay. So it was a tender port. So we were unable to go to Great Stirrup Cay. So it ended up being just another sea day for us. But we did go to Cozumel.
And how was that?
I loved it. So mainly because of my excursion. So we got off the ship, and they had these, pictures that they want you to take and stuff like that. But my friend had won some of the games on the ship, and she had free pictures coming. So she's like, no, let's get our picture taken. I'll send them to you. And I'm like, all right. And then we went over across the highway, or the road is like a little mall, and that's where they're all like pushy trying to get you to come in their stores. But we just walked right on through, and we got a cab. And so my excursion, I got it on Viator, and all these people, all my friends were so worried about me. Everybody was like having me check in with them because I went into a market, like a farmer's market in downtown Cozumel, like in where the regular folks live. And I met some strange lady. And then we went to the market and shopped. And then she took us back to her house and she made us lunch. And all my friends were like, "Are you sure this is safe?" So we took a cab. It was like $15, and we went into the market, and we kind of looked around the market for a while. We got there a little early, so we walked around and took in the sights, and it's so cool. Like, I'm used to a farmer's market in the United States, and this was different by a lot of ways. But they also had like a really pretty shrine set up with the Virgin Mary that was so beautiful, and it had candles. And then they had fish guys, and they had chicken guys, and they had vegetable and spices and everything. Like, it was so cool to see. And then we were waiting in like the assigned area, and we saw some other Americans that looked like they didn't know what they were doing. So we were like, "Hey, are you doing the lunch?" And so we all kind of huddled up together. And then we met Tanya, who, if you look on the apps, it's Tanya is her name. And she was amazing. She took us around to all these different little vendors, and we got tons of different fruits and vegetables and chicken and fish. And the fish, the guy like filleted it right off of the fish right in front of us. So it was fresh. And then we had rides. So she had a car, and then the other two sets of people also had cars. So we were able to kind of jump in with one of them. And we went to a tequila place. I don't want to say it was a factory, or they don't even grow the tequila plants, but they like bottle it maybe. But we went there and we tasted tequila, which is fun, of course. And then we went to her house. And it was just it was a nice house. And then she started cooking, and we all got to cook with her. And we made so many dishes, and we made so much food. We had salsas and red sauce, green sauce, guacamole, refried beans, fish, chicken, squash. Like, I can't even remember everything we ate. And margaritas. We had 2 different kinds of margaritas, and it was amazing. Like, we had the best time. And then at the end of it, she sent us in a WhatsApp group. She sent us all the recipes. It was so cool, and it was so fun. And what was even funnier was, while I was waiting for her, I got a phone call back from my pet sitter in Ohio. And she's like, "Heather, we have 12 inches of snow and your pipes are frozen."
Oh, no.
And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm in Mexico, and I'm about to eat my face off in guacamole." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. Call my guy that helps me with stuff." And she figured that out. But yeah, so here I am, like, thank goodness I'm on this ship and not at home with a foot of snow and frozen pipes.
I sensed a little bit of hesitation in your voice when you said Mexico earlier. And with you being a solo cruiser, did you find that Mexico was safe to you? You felt comfortable making your way around there?
I did feel comfortable at the port and in the mall, and I felt comfortable in the cab, and I felt comfortable at the market. I will say, though, don't try to walk from the port to the market if you do something like that. Like, in town, it was maybe a 10-minute cab ride. That was definitely like some sketch areas. You know, we were driving through some poverty. I didn't feel scared at all when I was out, but I was like, I wouldn't want to be walking through this area. Well, and like my friends back here, they were like worried, and they're like, if you get sketched out at the market and you don't think this person's safe, just tell them you're sick, and go back to the ship. But once I met Tanya, I was completely 1,000% good, and I felt safe the whole time. And when I was with her, like, I felt great, and I wasn't worried at all. It was just a little bit of nerves getting there. Market too was like, the chickens were just on the counter. The fish was on ice, but it was like, if you're like a squeamish person, or at least worried about food, like, I'm a foodie, and like, I just don't care. Like, I'll be fine. It didn't bother me at all, but I think some people might be a little sketched out by that. But I I didn't get sick afterwards. I was 1,000% fine. And probably my favorite thing, we went to this little tortilla shack across the street from the market, and there is no health code at all with this little shack. Like, it was these two little tiny people, and they were making the tortilla dough and throwing it in this machine, and the machine was cranking out tortillas that then went on this circle oven and baked. And there was literally flames shooting out the side of the oven. And it was probably 150 degrees in that little shack, but they were cranking out tortillas nonstop. And we bought some fresh ones, and they just handed them out to us and like put a little bit of salt on them. And like having a fresh tortilla, like literally that came off the oven 2 seconds ago, was so amazing. And then we bought a big stack of them to go back to the house for when we were cooking. So like just seeing, as a foodie and someone that like cooks for a living, seeing something like that of like how they actually live and how they actually do things, like that was so fascinating to me. I could have spent all day there.
Yeah. So after you did the tour, was it right back to the ship?
No, we went right back to the ship. Luckily, 2 of the girls that were with us on the excursion, they were staying at a resort and not on a ship. And so they had a car. And so they're like, we're right past the port. We'll just drive you back. So we didn't have to cab it for the way back. And, so they drove us back, and as soon as we got to the port, it was a torrential downpour. So we made it from shop to shop, just looking for ways to stay dry, and then made a run for it and got back to the ship soaking wet.
You're back on the ship. You're making your way back toward, I guess, Port Canaveral here. You missed Great Stirrup, so it's just a couple of days at sea, and then you're back?
Yeah.
Anything exciting on those last couple of sea days?
I mean, it was just, we had just a blast. Like that solo cruise group that I was with, we had so much fun. We were like hopping around, and we went to the Vibe, and then we were going to shows and doing bingo and playing games and eating every place we could think of. I was like, they were like, you haven't eaten here yet. You got to eat here. And so we just did a lot of things around the ship. And like, when that's what I think, like the people that I met, I remember every one of them. Like, I just had so much fun meeting everybody, and just like people watching was also fun. So I know we just ran around the ship and had a great time like little kids.
You make your way back to Port Canaveral. How was the debark process?
That wasn't fun. So they told us I was taking my own luggage off. And so it was like self-assist and yellow tags, which I had a yellow tag as well, was first. And I didn't do it right away. Like I got off maybe at it was like 8:00, and they started at 7:30. And it took us 45 minutes to get off the ship. And it was, I would say 40 minutes of that was the line on the ship. We had, as soon as you got off the elevator, there was a huge line to the aft of the ship. And it was slow, just like taking a step at a time. And then some guy with his family got off the elevator, and he goes, oh no, we need to go this way. And we looked at him and we're like, we're all going that way. Like, do you think we're standing here for our health? Like, do you think you have some magic pass? Like you're at Disney? I'm no, sorry, sir. You get in the back of the line like we all did. And so it was so slow. But as soon as we got out the door, we flew off. I mean, then it was like, it was literally 40 minutes in a line that wrapped around. And then it was 5 minutes once we cleared the ship door and walked through the facial recognition, and boom, we were done. And then I had not booked transportation because I had taken an Uber, and the Uber from Orlando to Cocoa Beach was $80, which I did not realize it was that much. And when I was getting off the ship, they had an airport shuttle, and they were selling tickets for $25. And I was like, sold. And so I handed my bag off and hit the bus to head back to the airport.
That's not a bad deal.
No, it was great, especially compared to an $80 Uber ride. Like, do I love a bus? No, but I'll take $25.
Yeah, any day. Since this was your first time sailing NCL, do you have any first-time tips to offer anyone who are either a solo cruiser on NCL for the first time, or just sailing NCL for the first time overall?
Yeah, I did priority. I paid the extra for that. I'm not sure it was worth it. I did get to go to a separate line for embarkation. I had priority for debark, and I also would have had priority on the tender, but we didn't use it. But all in all, I don't know. I just feel like I'm a little bougie, so I'll pay the extra for that because it was quicker for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the Vibe Pass, if it's a sunny trip, definitely do it because it's easy and you don't have to fight people for it. And the solo, if you are a solo cruiser, don't feel like a nerd. Go to the solo meetup because you will find someone you like. And I found 7 people that I liked. So we literally have a WhatsApp group going still that we're all sharing and talking and catching up and everything like that. So, and all ages too. Like there was probably 30 up to like 75 in that group. And it was a blast. Like the solo group, don't feel worried or nervous. Just go to it. You'll meet somebody you like. And then La Bistro, please get the chocolate log, get the steak, get the escargot. It was so good.
The bacon at Cagney's.
And the bacon at Cagney's, yes, that was delicious too.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you?
My excursion at Cozumel. As a foodie, so I have a food blog and I create recipes for my website, and that's my job. So getting to go and have someone else cook was first awesome, but getting to be like authentic. Mm-hmm. I went to Costa Rica, just not on a cruise, and I asked our driver for an excursion. I'm like, take me somewhere that you would go. And like, that's my biggest thing is places. I don't want to have like the right off the ship restaurants. Like I want to go someplace authentic to that area. And that's what my excursion was, 1,000% that. And it was so much fun. And Tanya was so great. And the food was so great. And it was just really cool to just be in that spot for those few hours.
For what you paid for this, was the value there?
Oh, yeah. I loved every minute of it. Like I was kind of dreading the cruise because I had just been home for a week. And then I got home. I was in Iowa for a week. And then I came home to Cincinnati for like 6 days. And then I was leaving again for 8 days because I spent that pre-cruise time in Cocoa Beach. So I was kind of dreading it and feeling like I just wanted to be home. But like my friends were all like, just stay, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. The minute you step on the ship, you'll love it. And I did. It was worth it. It was a great vacation. I loved cruising by myself. I loved NCL. I was like, this is the one. Like I still kind of want to try Royal and Virgin, but NCL was fantastic. I loved everything. I just wish it had a guy's burger. That's the only thing that I liked on the other ships was that I missed was guys' burgers. But yeah, I had a great time and I loved every minute. It was worth the money. Other people did say they booked fairly late. Like one guy, Taryn, had booked like a week before and he got a really great deal. I didn't get a great deal, but it was worth it. I loved it.
Well, your final thoughts here of NCL Joy.
I loved it. I still want to try maybe a Royal, like one of the big ships with the Aqua class. Like I still kind of have a desire to try that. Still kind of want to try Virgin because I hear about like the balconies and it's just adults and stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. But I really love Norwegian and it's killing me to not book another cruise right now. Like I want to go again.
So a couple of moments ago, you mentioned that your world revolves around food and you have a food website. What is that site? Where could we find your coverage?
Yeah. So my website is thefoodhussy.com and it's HUSSY. Yes, I said hussy. And I mainly do copycat recipes. So copycat restaurant recipes. There's a couple of carnival recipes on there. But then on Instagram, you can find me at Food Hussy. And I did a room tour, a ship and a ship and cruise video. And then I also did one about the excursion that I went on. And I have another one coming about the restaurants.
And everything Heather just said will be in the show notes at cruiseradio.net. Heather, always great catching up with you. Thanks for coming on.
Yes. I really just want to book another cruise, so I have a reason to talk to you again.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,